This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
So they're saying that the Midnight expansion reveal was the worst World of Warcraft expansion reveal maybe of all time. What do you think about that, Evie?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hello, Internet. My name is Taliesin.
And I'm Evitel.
And let's talk Midnight, or more specifically, let's talk the announcement and reveal of Midnight, which has not gone down well, Evie.
It hasn't been the best, and I think there are a few reasons as to why, which I'm hoping we can break down for you today.
I feel like the internet has been very vocal in its insistence that Midnight was the worst expansion reveal ever. I don't disagree. I think we can probably add to this conversation, seeing as we were at Gamescom and we talked to a lot of people, including devs, and maybe got some insight that we can impart to you here and get to the bottom of exactly what went wrong. And spoiler, it's not the shape of Liadrin's jaw. Okay, so let's go over the timeline of events here and exactly what happened from the opening ceremony of Gamescom onwards.
And I would actually go back to a little bit before the opening ceremony, to the messaging that went out, which was tune in to the opening ceremony to watch the official Midnight cinematic drop. This was all over the WoW Warcraft social channels. This was everywhere. This is the kind of call to be like, show up here at this time and you will receive the cinematic.
And that's what we did. We actually didn't go to the opening ceremony so that we could go to our hotel room and stream with all our buddies.
Just for you.
From 8 p.m. onwards and watch it. And it wasn't on at 8 p.m, was it? And as we ticked through, like 8:15, no. 8:30, no.
Nope.
8:45, no. 9 p.m. came and went, no cinematic. 9:15, 9:30. I believe it was like 9:40 or 9:45 in the cinematic.
It was 9:45. We were at the point where we were like, okay, there's only like Resident Evil left to announce and WoW and like maybe one other thing.
And I was ready to like commit violence at that point. I was ready to just basically give up on the channel, on my marriage, on my kids.
You know, and everyone there at the opening night ceremony was like press, trade.
Oh my goodness, it was completely dead. And you could tell it was affecting every single presenter that came up and started talking. They went up and they were all like chirpy and you know, excited with life with a glint in their eye. And, you know, after a few seconds, all the life got drained out of them. But anyway, the hour finally came, the Midnight cinematic played, and that was all very nice. I'm not saying this has affected people's view of the cinematic. Lots of people really like it. Lots of people don't, and their reasons are, well, some reasons are really objectively bad, but some of them are like, you know, they're subjective reasons which you're allowed to have.
Absolutely.
And that's absolutely fine.
I loved it. I loved seeing Liadrin, Lorthamar, naturally.
You don't think Liadrin's jaw was too strong? You don't think making her look like that famously butch masculine actor Evangeline Lilly, who plays a literal elf in Lord of the Rings? You don't think that was just too masculine?
Hey, we were even out in Cologne a couple nights later, and there were some like teenage guys at the Späti at like the little kiosk, and they were like, "Hey, you look so beautiful." I was like, "Hey, thanks." And they're like, "You got a great jaw."
And I was like, clearly not gamers. Basically what I'm saying is I feel like even if everyone had loved the cinematic, the reveal of Midnight would still be considered to be terrible because I think it's way more than kind of like mixed reactions on the cinematic. Right?
It is much more than that.
But the night was not lost because, you know, we knew that there was the features trailer coming out. Well, okay, so here's the thing.
Who knew?
The original messaging weeks ago had been that there was going to be a live stream from the WoW channel on YouTube and Twitch, which was, it sounded like a WoW Direct or something like that, which would feature, and I swear this is true,
this is real,
Chris Metzen, among others, talking about the expansion. That kind of went quiet a little bit in the build-up, but I think a lot of people still had it in their heads that that was going to happen.
I definitely did.
Now, we'd learned by the time reveal night had come around that that wouldn't be happening, and that it would in fact just be a features trailer going live on the WoW YouTube channel.
Yes.
So we, with all our stream, we moved over there to watch the features trailer, and that popped, and that was all very good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a quick dose of information.
A typical features trailer, really.
A trailer.
Like, nice bit of narration at the beginning with kind of mood setting, and the mood setting had like all the housing and stuff in it, and
I liked that.
That was really nice, and that revealed things about the expansion beyond like some elves fighting, and actually had some features in it, like the zones that we would be questing in, like the prey system, and the new playable Haranir, and the new Demon Hunter spec.
Amazing.
And things like that.
Yes.
In this time, as we were watching this features trailer, we had also received via email from Blizzard a fact sheet with pages and pages of features and updates that were coming with the expansion, some of which were in the features trailer, many of which obviously weren't.
Yeah.
As the features trailer was finishing, news from this fact sheet was coming out. You've got people making articles about the fact sheet. So there was things like UI updates that were reported on. There were things like little details about player housing that were reported on. Little details about the 3-raid structure and stuff like that. All of these things, quite big, important things.
The transmog system
the
as well.
The transmog system. And, we have lots to say about that. But let's carry on with the timeline. There was also an article that went out sort of on the WoW website, which did have some more details, including descriptions of all the zones.
Yes. Oh, those were quite interesting, weren't they?
Yeah. They were descriptions of all 4 zones, but there was basically only one description repeated 4 times.
Yeah. We journey into X with X, and then there was another sentence structure that was exactly the same, repeated in each of them.
Yeah.
And so when you're reading it, the effect is like you don't absorb any of it because it's just...
If you did absorb it all, you probably went, that seems a bit like AI, doesn't it?
That was problematic.
Maybe it was AI, maybe it was outsourced, like 4 different people. In the same way that all Shadowlands raids were just like avoiding swirlies for a while, like because the fights were made by different people and they all came up with the same like mechanic. It could have been that, but either way, it wasn't very good, was it?
No.
It didn't fill one with confidence that this was a slick operation, right?
It didn't. So even though that was out there, it was like, it didn't feel good.
No.
People were literally dissecting it on Reddit, being like, what am I reading right now?
Then we had that panel with Maria and Ian, and we were like, thank goodness. The camera crew was there filming it. It was absolutely packed at the WoW stage for that. They did a really good panel. Maria, despite not feeling a little bit under the weather, it turned out later on, a really good presentation about the characters. We got shots of Lorthamar's model and the zones and the story behind this. I got some amazing shots of Zulaman and the Armani trolls. And then Ian came out and he was talking about dungeons and delves and the raid structure. And it felt like a real, proper World of Warcraft panel. And we were like, thank goodness. I'm so glad they're finally doing this live on stream.
Yeah. Right?
It wasn't live on stream, though.
No, it wasn't.
They didn't stream it.
It wasn't streamed.
Well, we were sitting there assuming it was going to be streamed, right?
Yeah.
Because why on earth wouldn't you stream this?
And like everyone is there, like you say, the camera guys are set up, everyone's ready, like lights are on stage. We've got the whole vibe going. And it is not happening on stream. So I started just kind of frantically tweeting.
We realized they weren't streaming it and we were like, you're going to have to tweet this out. Not that it's really important because I'm sure that the VOD of this will be up in minutes.
Of course.
So, there's basically no point us doing these tweets, but we'll do them anyway. So you were kind of like live tweeting it as well as you possibly could.
Yeah.
And we found out since that Wowhead were like, who had no one there, they were like, yeah, thank God T and E are there tweeting this out, right?
Yeah. And then there was an article published from Wowhead, and I was like, oh, cool. Like, they must have had someone there. And it was a summary of all the creators there who were just off the cuff tweeting.
And this is no fault of Wowhead. Obviously, it's not their fault in the slightest.
No.
But their initial reporting of this panel was just shit that people like us had written on their Twitter. And then we were like, okay, well, at least that VOD will be up soon and, on the WoW YouTube, and everyone will know what's going on with the expansion. Because at that point, we felt like it was a proper expansion launch.
Yes. We got that
after just 2 days.
Exactly. Yeah.
After the release of the cinematic.
We got that half hour of trusted talking heads, and we were like, okay, that's it. We got it. This is good. This is good now.
So,
right?
An hour came and went, had not been released. We went on stream to stream some player housing. Basically, the entire stream was talking about this panel because no one knew what was in it. And so people were asking us questions, and we were basically being Ian and Maria, answering these questions as best we could, right? It got to the stage, Holly Longdale actually came into our chat and was like, we're working on it.
We're working on it. It'll be ready soon.
It was not ready soon, just so you know. I think it came out literally about 6 hours after that. Then, it turns out that wasn't the first thing that WoW had been putting out since the trailer launch, because actually Ian and Paul Cubitt had done interviews on the Xbox stage live at Gamescom, which had kind of found its way to YouTube. I learnt about it through a YouTube short.
Same.
I was watching the YouTube short and Paul Cubitt was out and there's like new footage of player housing features and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I was like, what's going on? And I tried to find the video and I eventually found the video that it was from. And it wasn't like particularly insightful, but still, it was Paul Cubitt and Ian Hazzikostas talking and like literally no one had told us about it. But okay, at least the panels have started now. At least it's feeling like an expansion reveal. It's feeling like BlizzCon. Can't wait for the next panel on Saturday. So we went through the whole of Friday, again, with no new panels, no new information. And yeah, people were doing interviews with devs and putting their interviews out and things like that. And that's great. That's wonderful. Creators doing a sterling job there.
Oh, yeah.
But still, Friday, another void of information completely.
Very, very fitting to the theme.
Until Ian Hazzikostas and Paul Cubitt's panel on the Saturday, which again was absolutely packed. And this time people were prepared for there being no live stream.
Yes, they were.
And like everyone just had their phones out like this recording it. It was absolutely insane. And that was another absolutely brilliant panel.
Yeah, fantastic. We finally dug deeper into the systems. We talked a bit about the transmog, talked a bit more about the new talents.
Apex talents,
Which I had heard whispers of
Yeah,
like the night before.
UI improvements, so things like the new nameplates, the new damage meters, the new kind of like basically deadly boss mods, sort of boss tracking abilities.
And we got our first look at them as well, so
Yeah.
people could look at like what the features are, what they can play with. You know, it's just a slide, but there's so much to take in there.
Loads of clarification on stuff. Suddenly, whereas people had been talking after the initial announcement, like, this is a very features-light trailer. No, finally, we had all these features kind of out there and ready to snack on and talk about and dissect. Or at least we would do after that video went up, which in fairness to Blizz, they did get edited and up on their YouTube way, way quicker than the first panel on the Thursday.
Yes.
Almost just as quickly, they took that video down though, because it turns out it was like frozen for 20 seconds at a time in multiple places in the video. So they took that down. And they eventually re-uploaded it and it's up there. And lo, that is all our information about the Midnight expansion from Gamescom.
Except it's not.
No, because actually there were two other panels on the Saturday, a fireside chat with Maria Hamilton and Gabriel Gonzalez, which we took part in and we hosted.
So we couldn't live tweet that one for you, sorry.
Which was being recorded, we think, but Blizz still haven't decided what to do with the footage of it, whether to give it to us or put it on their own channel.
And we've got loads of like juicy news in there.
It's so good.
We have some really good stuff in there.
And likewise, there was in the evening, there was a panel with Mr. GM and Ian Hazzikostas, which
the big man
also at the time of recording this hasn't found its way onto the YouTube or Mr. GM's channel either. So again, some tasty little tidbits in there too, which haven't found their way to the public. Oh, another really funny thing about that, by the way, was like it came up on the schedule as fireside chat with Taliesin and Evertel, fireside chat with Mr. GM. And it's like okay, we're not the selling points of this fireside chat, all right? Like, that's very silly. No, it should be fireside chat with Maria Hamilton.
And Gabe Gonzalez.
It should be fireside chat with Ian Hazzikostas. Like, it doesn't matter who's hosting it.
I know.
And then, that was it. That was all the information from Gamescom, probably. I don't know.
Apart from interviews, which have yet
interviews
to be published.
which are still kind of coming out and stuff like that and what have you. So, yeah. And, you know, there's information that I haven't seen come out that we learned just from obviously conversations with people. Stuff like, did you know, Evie, that they are greatly simplifying professions next expansion? They're getting rid of bronze level stuff.
I did not know that.
And silver level stuff.
I did not know
and they're
that.
only having gold and platinum level stuff.
I thought I was completely unaware
because no
of
one
that
ever
news.
wants anything less than gold and platinum, so they're literally just getting rid of them. Did you know that?
I know. That's really good for me to know.
I did. Consider that reported. But no one's actually said it. So that was the timeline. You might well be sitting there, reasonable human being that you are, going, well, that doesn't sound so bad. That sounds all right. Let me tell you why that's bad. Why is that a terrible expansion reveal?
To start with, I think the World of Warcraft community, that includes us, that includes players who don't interact with YouTube or Twitch, that's players who like consume their news in all different ways. We have some like built-in expectations about how news is presented to us, especially around an expansion reveal. Now, typically, this would happen around BlizzCon. You got everyone in a room and you can deliver the information like really cohesively, and it's out there. And part of that expectation is that we receive news. It's kind of like reported on by, like YouTubers, streamers, internet people, actual real life press, but there was always like an official source. Like there's always a trusted talking head. It's Ian, it's Chris Metzen, it's Holly telling us what to expect, which we all then share and dissect and talk about. We did not receive that.
I think there was a couple of things that went very drastically wrong, more than the Adrin's jaw, more than the fact that Lorthamar's eyes weren't quite bright enough or whatever. Blizz didn't go with their original plan, basically, because the expansion cinematic happened, and then instead of what we actually needed, the WoW Direct, with Ian Hazakostas and Chris Metzen and Maria Hamilton, pre-recorded with Linksy just asking some questions and them giving lovely scripted responses where they just tell us and announce the things that are coming. It's like, here's some cool pictures of Zula Man. Here's some cool pictures of like the other zones.
Here's some concept art, right?
A little brief about how the Void Demon Hunter thing is going to work. Here's some pictures of damage meters and housing and some other cool things and profession and the prey system. Let me explain to you what the prey system is so that all you've got to go on isn't like literally 3.5 seconds of features trailer
that just
where
says
you're
prey
just
system.
like, obviously we didn't get that, even though it was originally the plan. You had like the cinematic, then you had a features trailer, and then this huge void, except worse than a void. It would have actually been better if it was a void, okay? But it wasn't, because that press sheet went out, and Wowhead did that thing that Wowhead did. Of course, they separated out each point into a single article and put it out, but when there's no other source for that, no official source from Blizzard, what that means is it's just like overwhelming and bitty, and some people might see one article but not another article, and because there's no centralized source, there is no WoW Direct, there is no cast, there is no like official Blizz person saying the words out loud, that just it's confusing, underbaked. It's like, and no criticism on any of the creators or on Wowhead or anything. They all did their job, and you might think, well, that's what always happens, Tally. You know, there's always a whole ton of Wowhead articles, there's always a ton of videos coming out, but I wish to point out a slight difference. Usually what you see in the wake of an expansion reveal is news outlets reporting on the Blizzard announcement. So like, you know, there'll be a WoW Direct or there'll be a panel at BlizzCon or something like that, and Wowhead and us and Mr. GM and stuff will report on that thing. So there's always that Blizzard source to go back to and check. That didn't happen this time. And the thing is, right, I've heard people say that, you know, that void that came on the Wednesday, that's because of Gamescom and Blizz aren't really in control and stuff. But that's not true, because WoW had their own stage at Gamescom, okay? They could have had those panels on their stage literally whenever they wanted. You know, they could have had them on Wednesday morning if they'd wanted.
Presumably. That is what we presume. But there was a huge WoW presence there.
Exactly. You know, they had the power to kind of do their own scheduling on their own stage, right? They could have put the panel on whenever they wanted.
I don't know.
And like, even if they couldn't, they definitely could have live streamed it and put it onto their YouTube. And so that, for me, I don't know if you agree, but that was the main problem. Was in many ways it would have almost been better if there was no press sheet and it actually had been a void until those first panels, because I feel like that kind of bitty scattershot reporting from like every source imaginable except Blizzard, I feel like it wasn't conducive to a good expansion.
Yeah, I have no problem with a press sheet. I have no problem with it being kind of like disseminated out to people to report on. But I think it only works if you have like an authoritative source, literally a video. I mean, that's kind of what we rely on now. That's what we expect from previous expansions.
And to be clear, that's what I mean as well. I mean, like the press sheet existing by itself,
on its own,
naked and vulnerable, like with no kind of WoW Direct, or, you know, if those panels had happened on Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon, the press sheet would have been dandy and great and fine. And press sheets are good. It was the other stuff that was missing, right?
Yeah, and it was wild seeing the stuff coming from the WoW channels, namely the social channels, being these like little YouTube clips, shorts, Instagram reels, TikToks, just kind of
so much that you had to try and keep up with.
Yeah, so much information coming from different sources, which would often have something new in it. But then no actual like authoritative like hub for which I could find the real information.
That's how it went wrong. Now let's move on to what went wrong. And this is where like I feel like our insight of being at Gamescom, we talked to Ian, we talked to Holly, we talked to Maria, we talked to like the people at the stage, we talked to the people who were working the camera and stuff like that. So I feel like we do have a little bit of insight in this. And well, there's a couple of things I want you all to know.
Hey everyone! I don't know about you guys, but I have a good feeling about the future. I'm manifesting. Squarespace is sponsoring today's video, thanks guys, and they know what's up. It's even on their landing page. A website makes it real. I love that for us. It really makes me want to show you some of my favorite features on there. I love how easy it is to add impact to a Squarespace site. Not only was I able to find a really bold and beautiful pre-made template to jump into, and there was a whole library of them to choose from, but adding that extra bit of customization to my headline is simple with formatting options, underlining, even custom underlined shapes. Gotta love the squiggle. I also love the Squarespace stock image library. I've never had trouble finding exactly what I'm looking for here, saving the need for me to create or splash out on expensive assets because, I mean, just look at this. I am absolutely spoiled for choice, and that's just the tiptoe of the iceberg. And finally, Site Styles gives you instant and comprehensive control over the look and feel of your site without having to fiddle with individual elements. Choose from pre-made color schemes for maximum impact, select your font pack, even change the shape and size of your buttons to encourage optimal button pressing. Though I wouldn't know anything about button pressing, we don't do that around here. So there you have it. You too can make it real with your own website. Just head to squarespace.com/TaliesinEvitil, where you can build the website of your dreams and enjoy 10% off your first purchase of a Squarespace website or domain. Or just use code TaliesinEvitil at checkout and make your dreams into reality. That's squarespace.com/TaliesinEvitil.
Evie, have you seen Zaddy's got 3 feet now?
It's working.
I was wrong.
It's real.
The first is that they know, you know, like when we met Ian for the first time backstage, like literally the first thing he said was basically, we know it hasn't been ideal, blah, blah, blah. And like, that was the same with pretty much every dev we met. So it was a decision that came from high up, and it was a decision that didn't work. But the other thing I want you to know is that I am 100% certain that the decision was made in good faith, and they genuinely thought it was going to be a good idea. Like, I don't think this is Bobby Kotick on his yacht, like demanding that no information. No, exactly. But like, what I'm saying is, I don't think it came from Xbox or anything like that. I think it was a genuinely sincere attempt to allow creators and the press and the community to be an important part of delivering the information.
I think you're probably onto something here, and kind of tied in with that. I think, you know, as we're talking about all this, none of this is to like disparage any one person's role or job or what they did. Like,
well, like I say, I think it was like a genuine attempt to do something good, which has to be applauded, and it didn't work out in retrospect. Yeah,
and I think we were having a nice chat with a friend at the airport on the way home, and he was like, you know what? I can imagine this kind of rollout where they're like, give the power to the creators, give the power to everyone else and see what happens. Maybe it could work in a different community, like maybe a smaller community online, maybe where there's kind of like a more cohesive like vision.
For an announcement that wasn't so important as well.
Yeah, or for an announcement that was smaller. And I'm like, you know what? I can see that. But I think given, like you say, the scale of the announcement, the way the World of Warcraft community exists on so many different levels.
The timeline of this all happening over a week as well.
I feel like there was like a good intention there. And
I'm certain there was a good intention there.
And why would there be a bad intention?
So you don't have to pretend that it worked just to be nice or anything like that. This did not work. And the other thing is, like, no creators wanted this.
No.
We were the same as everyone else. We were like, oh, we are breaking this news.
This doesn't feel right.
We shouldn't be breaking this news. I think there might be stuff in that fact sheet that still hasn't been reported because someone wasn't interested. Like, all the people that had the fact sheet was like, I'm not interested in that. I report the big stuff, right? No one's pretending that it worked. It didn't. I'm not trying to convince you it was a good decision. What I'm trying to convince you of is, in my opinion, it wasn't like a disconnected decision. It wasn't like a thoughtless decision. It was a decision that came from a genuine, I think, I'm convinced, place of wanting to democratize the rollout of information.
That's interesting.
And I think that's a really, really good intention. It's kind of like how BFA made some really big decisions with its storytelling and with its story, with its story kind of delivery and stuff like that. And it didn't always work. And I said all the way through BFA, I was like, I am not going to criticize the effort. I'm not going to criticize the attempt. You know, you should be able to try things and then not work.
Tally, if I can say it, I'm not quite as convinced as you are on that point.
Really?
Actually.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like, personally, you can't ignore the huge layoffs they've had at Microsoft recently, which have like decimated the comms teams, the socials teams.
Yeah, okay, I think that's fair.
So I feel, and even in like little moments, like seeing the way the article was written, the features article on the Warcraft site.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Like down to like little, even like on the granular level, it wasn't quite matching up. And to me, like I could see that being as like a consequence of, there being kind of a top-down directive and things just falling apart. Yeah. And because of those layoffs, because of like stress on the teams, it didn't work out. I don't know.
I can buy that.
Yeah.
But you know, like, so for example, the reason like the panels weren't live streamed was not because they didn't have the person to press the button or whatever, or they didn't have the technology to make it happen, or the manpower or the staff to make it happen. It was because someone had made a specific decision that it was not to be streamed. So, you know, that's got nothing to do with layoffs or anything like that, is what I'm saying. And like, that's like a specific choice that has been made, I think with a good intention at heart, which clearly backfired.
Yeah, but I'm still not clear which person on what level made those decisions. Well, and that, I think, could possibly go down to someone being like in a new position.
Okay, so I think I do know. For the sake of being like not a dickbag online and just speculating and causing hassle, I'm not gonna say, but I think I know.
Okay.
And like I'm pretty convinced it came from a really, really good place.
Okay.
But that's just my vibe from being there, because I feel like vibes are very important, and like vibes are often the way, and just the kind of the way devs look at you when they say something and the things they don't say, and like that's like really important a lot of the time for piecing things together.
Totally.
We talked to a lot of devs.
We did. And I think it should also be said that like the actual Gamescom event was pretty cool. It was really good. If you were on the ground, it was really neat. Like the production values were super high. Everyone we worked with was like an absolute boss, like from the team putting it together, from the team who organized it, to the actual like production team who work magic and who I wish we could bring with us to actually press all the buttons here, because oh my God, they did amazing stuff.
If you haven't seen the live episode of the podcast, please go and watch it, because it will never look that good again. So, like expectations weren't being met.
No.
And those expectations are there for a reason. That's not just like, you know, Warcraft players, they've grown accustomed to something that they can't possibly cope with change. No. Those things are established over 20 years because they're the best way of doing it. And you want all that information. You want that central source of Blizzard information, because that's how you get hyped. You might learn about it from a Wowhead article, but the first thing in that Wowhead article is going to be a link to like the video or the article or whatever, you know, that you can go and actually check the source and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But they weren't able to do that with all this stuff.
No source.
it was literally like you just had to take creators' words for it.
You did. It was funny.
And you should never do that.
No, that's just been like really rubbish.
Well, it feels like a shit show, right?
Because people are kind of going for each other. They're reporting things differently. Like people are debating kind of the very like subtle nuances of a statement that in the first place was kind of nebulous, and it's just created like really negative sentiment.
So great example. Do you remember when we asked in our housing interview if there were going to be import-export strings?
Yes.
And they basically said no,
like, not really.
at launch.
Not now.
Great idea. We love it.
Yeah.
We'd like it to happen. Okay, so I was like, okay, shame. Real shame, actually. It's kind of an important feature. But, you know, we were waiting for our plane, and I saw a PC Gamer article, which was reporting on a Wowhead article, which was reporting on an Annie Fuchsia stream where she was reporting on something that someone had said to her where there would be import-export strings, you know? And so this was being reported by PC Gamer as there will be import-export streams in player housing, because we read a Wowhead article that watched an Annie Fuchsia stream where she said something, and that's like, that's what the reporting of these features is.
And not like doubting Annie's like veracity.
No, well,
because she's
I purposely
awesome.
haven't watched the stream because I don't actually need to know what she actually said,
Yeah,
right?
no.
The fact is, it's come through like this chain,
Yeah.
and that's not good reporting.
that's not
a good
the
way of like getting to know what's actually happening. Right?
Yeah. Like, when that, it's like, oh, summary of the first panel is up on Wowhead. I was like, oh, thank God, I can go and check what I missed. And it was just my own tweets and other people's tweets, and I was like, oh no.
Was it all right though? But I'll never forget the summary of our first player housing kind of reveal,
right, yeah.
where I was like, player housing is going to be the biggest thing since raids, since Mythic Plus, and it was reported in the summary as Taliesin says player housing will be the biggest thing ever in the game, bigger than raids, bigger than Mythic Plus. Like that's not what I said.
This is just the nature of the beast, right? To some extent.
If you can trust anyone, it's Wowhead, okay? Like if you have to trust anyone with anything, with your life, with your children, trust Wowhead, okay? But with the best will in the world, nothing is as good as actually just being able to watch a panel, right?
Here's a solution, I think. The solution to having this not happen in the way that it happened this time around is to literally you drop the cinematic and, like you say, a WoW Direct, some kind of filmed panel with an authoritative voice from WoW, from Blizzard, telling us what's going down. And then you can have another one the next day. That's fine. We're used to that, right? We're used to having a kind of world overview panel and then a systems panel. They replicated that. It was just a bit spread out. But yeah, I think just the way going forward is like that. And I think learning news for the first time from a TikTok feels insane, but maybe that's just the nature of the world now.
People.
Maybe
to be fair, maybe there's hundreds of thousands of people going, oh, thank goodness, I learned this news through TikTok just like I always wanted.
Exactly.
So I'm a bit wary of being too critical of that, right?
No, exactly.
I'm very aware that I could just be an old dude, but there's no doubt that sentiment in the community is this was a botched expansion reveal, and that's a shame, isn't it? Because everything we've actually learned about the expansion,
the actual content is
sounds
great.
Awesome.
It feels really good.
Legitimately, I'm even coming around to the idea of the praise system. I think if it's done well, it could be really, really good. All the new delves and raids and zones and the story beats that they're looking to hit. I really like the idea of the 3 raid thing, although I'd like to see more of that. The new leveling changes and the way they're going about the new player experience and the recaps of the previous expansion for people coming back to the game and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lore walking version of War Within.
Really good. And that's before you even start talking about housing, which is the biggest feature ever in the game, bigger than raids or Mythic Plus, right? So there's so much coming, which is really, really good. And I feel unfortunately, first impressions are so important on the internet that, Midnight has already got a bit of a reputation for being a features-light expansion because of the way it was revealed and because of the way it was announced, which is unrepresentative, I feel. And that's a shame, isn't it?
On the plus side, after a week, I finally feel a lot of the holes have started to been filled in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the actual sentiment on the floor was really positive. It was cool. The devs felt really cool, positive about it. There was just everyone was we're really excited to give this to you. This feels good.
In summary, there has been a decision to roll out the information in a way that this time did not work.
It just didn't hit. Just didn't hit.
Yeah.
Tally, my question for you is, will all of this matter in a few months?
When alpha hits?
Yeah.
Well, I think it, unfortunately, in a way, it does matter because, internet reaction, the genesis of stuff is so important. Yeah. You only need to see that by the way, one thing about the cinematic can gain traction and be repeated by everyone. One thing about this announcement can, there's still people that think transmog is free.
It's not
in
free.
Midnight, and they're going to be so
free.
disappointed when it's not, right? And because that just misreporting of the fact sheet, right? And there was no source to go and check it with. That's why they put so much into the announcements, right?
Yeah.
Is because they're massively important.
Yeah. Hopefully we have successfully broken that down for you guys.
Yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the comments and we'll try and go through and answer sort of from our point of view what was going on.
Let us know, how are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about the expansion? How are you feeling about this whole announcement cycle?
Got a feeling I know, but let us know anyway. And thank you for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us, thank our patrons who we've been honored to meet lots of at Gamescom, and a few that we missed as well. And I'm so sorry, and we'll make it up to you, I promise.
Next time.
If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Kamui Cosplay. No, my name is Taliesin from me.
And me, Evatel.
Until next time, cheerio.